Oh, good evening, everybody. I think there might still be a few more kind of pinging in, so you might just see me letting people in over the next couple of minutes. But it's really nice to see you all and welcome. This is a celebration tonight, so I did jazz hands for you. Um, it's been yeah, celebration. We were nearly going to bring a glass of bubbly, weren't we, Deb?
We were.
It's 2 years ago, Deb had this incredibly cool idea to start writing. And when Deb starts writing, I put everything down and go, me, I want to read it. What is it? And what she started writing was something that I think most of you on the call will have at least heard of, probably 365 days of conscious creation. And it kind of came about because Deb had a dream, which is how all good speeches start, as we know. Deb had a dream and wanted to make that dream a reality. And so over the course of the next year, she started writing what was occurring to her and what insights she was having about how to turn something from a dream, an imagination, an idea into a reality out in her world. And over that first year, a number of us joined in with those 365 days and got to read lots and lots of juicy goodness from Deb every day. And then for some of us, we've done a whole second run at that. So we just wanted to really get together and sort of celebrate how amazing that has been, as well as always talking about something that's helpful and good for anyone that comes on a call with us. So Deb's going to share some thoughts on supernatural living, conscious creation as well this evening. But before we kind of dive into that amazing part of the webinar, as part of the celebrations of 2 years of 365, we are relaunching the course, and Deb's going to share a little bit about what that might look like in a minute. And as part of that relaunch, the price is going up. So from tonight until this time next week, you can still get it at the current price, which is an amazing £365, because obviously that's a perfect price, until next Tuesday. And then after next Tuesday, it's going up to 500. So Deb's going to tell you a bit about what is coming with the relaunch, and hopefully share the prospectus. Deb, yep, because we've been having so much creative fun in the office this last week. So she's going to
love playing offices, don't we, Beck?
Really do, yeah. Get such a kick out of it. So she's going to tell you a little bit about that, and then I will make sure the link is in the chat and on when we send out the replay tomorrow. So anyone that's on here that hasn't joined the 365 yet, this is an amazing time to do it. And then Deb's going to talk to you a bit more about supernatural living and such. So Deb, over to you.
You. Oh, and it's lovely to see all our lovely people. I do love, any excuse to have a webinar, basically, just to get people together and chat. We can make it up about anything, really, can't we? Should we have a webinar? Yeah, let's. And we do. Yeah, it's definitely a part of supernatural living. A part of seeing this way is really seeing the made up nature of it. It's literally like, do you fancy doing that? Yeah, let's just do it. And we can. Which is really super cool. So Beck shared a little bit with you about 365 days of conscious creation. It was a little bit of a crazy idea in one sense, because for me personally, it really keeps me on track writing something or reading something very regularly, because one of the things that I see with my mind is that it can easily get taken off in directions that I'm not so keen on it going. And so having something to bring me back every day, I found that really helpful over my time since I've been looking in this direction. I find that really helpful. And I know that isn't for everyone. And, I know we are all different. We all have our own ways, but I have found that incredibly helpful. And one of the first things that I did was something called the Warrior's Journey. And at the time, that was a huge thing for me. That was over a 3-month period. And I decided that I would write something every day for 3 months. And the realization as I got into it and started doing something every day was like, oh, weekends came up. And, days when other things were happening. And it was like, oh my gosh, yeah, you've committed to doing this every day. And then I had this crazy idea to commit to doing this for an entire year. So for an entire year, it was literally like, oh my gosh, I said I will do this every day. And definitely for me, that is a part of this. It's like, can you do that? Can you make that commitment? And can you do that? And definitely doing that for an entire year, there were definitely days when it was like, oh my gosh, can I actually do this today? Can I think of anything? Can I sit down and write something or do something? And what's going on? And I did it, like I do these things in real time. Like those of you that get my daily inspirations, I don't do like 100 daily inspirations and then schedule them and send them out. I pretty much do my daily inspiration and then go to bed. So I do them in real time. They're done. Then it's like what's going on and what's occurring. So that, I personally find that really helpful. The daily, a way of bringing myself back to what I know is true. I all over, I've found that really, really helpful. And definitely a part of the 365 for me was the play times, playing, like getting actually getting my hands dirty with playing around. If I look back at the warrior's journey, that was a huge part of the warrior's journey too. Like there would be things to try, to just to play with, because our own experience is our greatest teacher. As I say, I love these webinars. I love sharing what I'm seeing. I love sharing what is making sense to me. But I know that what is really, really helpful to people is their own understanding, what makes sense to them. And sometimes, you know, I will share something and say something and somebody will repeat back to me and say, oh gosh, oh wow, yeah, that's so helpful. You said this, didn't you? And I'm thinking, nope, that's not what I said. But clearly what you are hearing, something is going on inside you and you're hearing that, and that is helpful to you. And that's what's important. That's what changes things for us, hearing something for ourselves, not necessarily trying to fully understand necessarily what someone else is pointing to, but what makes sense to us. And that's something that definitely over the year of doing, of writing the emails, it was like really seeing that, oh yeah, there's not a one way fits all, not a one size fits all. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that I think one of the reasons that as human beings we don't come with a manual is for that reason, because there isn't a if this happens, do that. There is, what we come with is wisdom. We come with wisdom of the moment. We don't come with a manual, because even in the same circumstances, it would be prudent at times to do something different. And so very much a huge part of the emails, they are invitations to play. They are invitations to look in this direction. And even if something in one of the emails really annoys you and it's like, no, that's not like that for me. Cool. You know, that's good. Good. If you're clear that that's not how it is for you, good. You know, that's just as good as seeing something is. And at different times, different things will be pertinent for different people. So one of the things that Beck and I decided to do is, I know when I first started the 365 and the people, you know, there's, you guys are like, all of you on this call, I feel like I know you and I feel like you are my people. And you know, so Beck and I definitely have our people, as we all do. We have our friends and our groups, you know, and we jump on these things, and the people that are our people. So there were definitely some people who kind of like, yeah, if you're doing this, Deb, I'm in. Doesn't really matter what it is, I'm in. Yeah, that sounds cool. But what I noticed was, what I tend to do when I'm doing something like this is talk very much about the practical side of things. You know, you're going to get an email every day, you're going to get a playtime thing to do, whatever it is, and not really think about what is maybe more important. You know, what is the reason behind it? What is the transformation that's available with, you know, with getting involved in something like that? What's the possibility there? What is possible for anyone participating there? And so Beck and I got together and we decided to do some writing. Like, we like making shiny things. It was kind of cool and play. It was very much okay. So what's that part of it? If we're celebrating this, having written it, and then as Beck said, like, this is the 2-year anniversary, so there was an entire year where I was writing every day, and then I actually, obviously I was writing them every day, so I was aware what was going out, and then I had a whole year of receiving the emails. I was actually getting them on a daily basis as well, and it was like, okay, so having done both things really, and read the emails, purposely read them, and participated in the playtimes and everything, it's like, okay, what is it? What is the 365? And so we sat down to answer that question, really, like, what is it? Why are we doing this? Why did we even bother? What was it about? And the starting point for me, as probably I'm guessing most of the people on this call know, the starting point for me was this idea that I had, that I wanted to buy a plot of land and build a house. And I had seen the plot of land, and definitely, I don't think I even told Beck and Lou when I first started writing the 365, but it was, that's what I was doing. For me, it was about creation, and it was like, okay, can we create? You know, I'd heard all this whole thing, you know, we are born creators and all of this. So like, okay, well, can we? Do we do that? Is it possible? Is it something we do? Can we do this? And if we can, you know, what is a good idea? What is not a good idea? What is helpful? What's not helpful? And so it's definitely, that's where it started for me, just literally sharing what I was playing with no idea at that point what the outcome would be. And in one sense, that was the whole idea behind it too. It was literally like, right, I'm going to play with this, and I have zero idea what the outcome is. Obviously, now the land is mine. We have a caravan on the land, and we're this close to moving in. We actually had an amazing call today with the guy who's that we're getting the septic tank from, and we're moving forward with the solar panels. Once we've done those two things, we're moving. So but when I started writing, this was, for me, I'm just going to share what's going on, and potentially at the end of this it'll be, yeah, and nothing much happened. Thankfully that wasn't the case. The land ended up, you know, I own the land, and which was great. That was, you know, fantastic. That was exactly the outcome that I was hoping for. But there was a lot of learning along the way as well about I really saw how much fear I can get into. That was one of my biggest learnings, how much fear I could get into. And the other huge thing that was really highlighted for me during the writing of the emails and since then really is this idea of there being a right way. Like, I could see how wedded, if you like, to the idea that I was, that if I got this right, then everything would be okay. And if I didn't get it right, and it was that right, I need to get it right, this need to get it right. And a huge realization, again, as I said, the whole realization that we don't come with a user manual or a how-to manual. And I think it is because there just simply isn't one right way. It's a fallacy when we are looking for the answer, the right way, the thing. That's a mind created thing that has us being like a dog chasing its tail. You know, there's a right way. If you find the right way, it will be okay, and keep looking. And that is something that our mind creates. And so one of the things for me definitely with this is I've started making a lot of videos for my YouTube channel. I really enjoy making videos, and I've started making a lot of videos for my YouTube channel. And it was actually during a video, somebody asked me a question about getting into an abusive relationship and staying in an abusive relationship. I'm not even sure if that video has gone live yet, but I made it very recently. And so I decided to answer the question, you know, how did I get into an abusive relationship and why did I stay in it as long as I did? And the short answer to that is insecurity. You know, I was really, really, really insecure. I thought that I needed something outside. Again, I was looking for the right way, looking for the right thing, looking to do the right thing. And that's how I ended up in that. And during that video, I haven't gone back to listen to it. I keep intending to, but during that video, while I was making that video, something just came out of my mouth about, it's like, what I'm really interested in is starting points. It is like, helping people to understand, like what I see now about creation and conscious creation. We are creators as human beings. We love to create, but one of the ways where that I feel that we get into trouble, if you like, or are headed in the wrong direction, if that's the right way to say it, is we try to create from a place of feeling that we lack something. We think, right, I'm going to create whatever this is. I'm going to create freedom or money or a relationship or good health or whatever. I'm going to create something because there is something missing in me, because I am not already whole and complete, because there's something that I'm missing something. And if I create this thing, then that thing won't be missing anymore. And another huge realization, which I kind of knew, but has got really, really clear to me, is that is a terrible place to create from. It is a really, it makes it very difficult, and it's a terrible place to try and create from. And so in that video, when I was speaking, I kind of said, what I would really, really love to do is to help people see that they don't lack anything at all. And creation is for the pure joy of it. It is just a fun thing to do because we are here being human, and it's something we can do while we're here being human. We can create. We can create tons of stuff. We do it all the time. One of the, you know, we are preparing to move out of the farmhouse where we live into the caravan, and the stuff that there is so much stuff. It's literally like, we just are crazy creators. We are crazy collectors and creators. We just have so much stuff. And even, you know, however much I keep, I mean, I'm looking at my desk now. It is bonkers on my desk. Bex looks pretty clear. Mine is just bonkers. And there is just stuff. We have so much stuff. And we clear it all, and then within a very short time again, we've created a load more. There is just more stuff takes its place. We create all the time. We are creating. But to see that creating from a real deep realization of the truth of who we are, is that's what makes it fun. And a part of, even when I first started with this, a part of it was, you know, I had heard a lot of people talking about moving house and building a house and all that lot, and how stressful it was, and how stress is built into these kinds of things, and how many things we have set up like that, that stress is built into certain things. And a part of it was, okay, is it possible to do this without stressing? And as I said, one of the things was, I noticed how easy it can be to get fearful, and definitely moving into that fear is, oh, okay, yeah, you've got into that space again where you think this actually means something. And one of my things that I love to do is really face those things and really look at it and go, okay, so if you were to actually lose it all and people knew that you had. Like you've announced on YouTube that you want to buy this piece of land and you want to build this house. And what if you end up having the land repossessed because you haven't got money to pay a bill or whatever it is, and everybody knows about it because you've gone public with it, and just sort of sitting in that, like the almost the thing that we fear the most, just being with it, whatever it is. And for me, definitely over the time of doing this, and just over the time of making YouTube videos and doing webinars like this, being quite open and public, I really saw that my biggest fear is around what will they think, and fill in the they. It can be a particular person sometimes. It might be what will Beck think, or what will Russ think, or what will, Anne think, or Lizzie think, or, it can be a person, definitely. And then there are other times it is that faceless they, don't even really know who it is, but what will fill in the blank think. And definitely like sitting with, okay, so imagine there was a point not that long ago where I did have a £5,000 bill that I'd inadvertently managed to I don't even know how I did that. That was a really clever creation. Create a £5,000 bill that you can't pay. What a creation. And it was like, okay, so you can't pay that. What will happen if you don't pay it and people find out you don't pay it, and you're saying you're doing this conscious creation thing, and everybody finds out you didn't pay it, and what's going to happen? And just sitting in that space, and almost playing around with how Byron Katie speaks about thought ultimately not being true, and really looking at those things that really look true and really look as if they will trip you up, and they will find out about it, or whatever it is that we are most fearful about, and just sitting with it and getting past that and seeing that the other side of that is such great freedom, such amazing freedom. And it is those fearful things that keep us trapped in that space of, I mustn't do this and I can't do this. And definitely for me, the supernatural living in this way is totally just allowing that to be there, just looking at what is the other side of that, getting curious about what is the other side of it, asking questions about what is the other side of it, and just seeing that we genuinely are whole and complete and okay. And it is literally the gripping fear that tells us that we're not. And if this thing, whatever this thing is, happens to us that we can't deal with, it will be, it will be beyond us. And so far in my life, and most of you know, because I make a lot of noise about most things, I'm 60 now. So it's like, I've had a fair amount of time to play with it and really play around with it. And it's like, I can honestly say, in all of those 60 years, when I have looked, instead of running away or shutting down or headed in the direction that my mind tells me will be safe, everything that I have decided to look at in that way and actually question, am I all right even here? The answer has always been yes. And then from that space, deciding to play with creation, and it's like, we all have desires and dreams. And to me, our desires and dreams, they are God inviting us to express who he is through us, through the way that we are being in the world. It is an invitation, when we have a desire like that. And whatever it is, however insignificant it might seem to you, or how big it might seem to you. It's like, yeah, it's an invitation to express the divine. And it comes, for me, it makes sense that it comes like, if our desire is good health or a great relationship or something like that, it comes, the desire is an expression of that through this particular, or whatever particular aspect of God. It's an invitation to that aspect of God. Nobody else will express it like you. Nobody else will create it like you do. Nobody else is you. It's like it's an invitation to allow that expression to happen through you. And we have the free will to get in the way, to think against ourselves, to suffer, to struggle, to make that difficult, or we have the free will to surrender and allow and hear and feel those desires that come through us and express them out in the world. And that for me is what the 365 is about. It is the playing in that arena, just deciding that, yeah, let's play, let's do this, let's surrender to what is the desires that are coming through me. Let's surrender to that, and no matter what it looks like and no matter what it feels like, surrender to that and go with it from a space of knowing our wholeness and completeness. And so it's kind of like it's those two things, I think, the knowing of wholeness and completeness, and the expression of the desires that are coming through us. There is more, but I am aware that I'd like to open it up if anyone has any questions or comments, questions, or anything. I would love to open up and see, because to open up the conversation, basically. Feel free to put your hand up and mute. Feel free not to, because Lizzie.
Hello everybody.
Hi,
So
lovely Lizzie.
Congratulations on your 2-year anniversary.
Thank you.
Very exciting. I love reading those messages every day. So thank you very much for all of that. The question that came up for me earlier was, you were talking about how it's so unhelpful to try and create from a place of lack. And that makes complete sense to me. I know that, I've experienced that. Yeah, I get it. And when you're feeling lack, very often when I want to create something, and I don't think I'm alone in this, it's because there feels like there's a lack. So those two things kind of so often go together. So I just love to hear your experience of how did you move yourself from feeling that lack that was so unhelpful in creation to, because I know there've been, like your £5,000 bill just now, but I know there've been lots of kind of moments like that along the way. How do you get yourself out of that way of thinking so that you can create more effectively?
Well, definitely the daily nudges. That's what I mean. It's helpful for me to be daily reminded how this works. That is something I religiously do. It is so rare that I don't keep myself in this conversation in some way every day, in that sense, because that makes sense to me in that way. And apart, for me, it is absolutely playing in my imagination. That's what helps me come back to seeing it in a more helpful way. And I really noticed once I have persuaded myself, if you like, to see things in a certain way, it's relatively easy to continue to come back there. It's a coming back to that rather than making it up every time. So, and I have got, I've got experience of seeing that it works this way. I've watched my relationship. I've watched lots of my relationship with my children, with other family members, I've watched my relationships change through a knowing this is how it works. And however tempting it is to do it another way, it's like, this is how it works. And so I'm going to stick to this is how it works. And I know for me, in those moments, like the £5,000 bill was a great example, because it was literally like, I just do not know how I'm going to do this. I don't know. When before I bought the land, we were £10,000 short. I needed £10,000, and I had no idea how that was going to happen either. But I felt like I actually tried to do something about that. I got quite involved and tried to do something about that. And then when the £5,000 bill came up, I was just like, I just don't know what to do. So I was like, okay, well, there just isn't anything to do then. Just completely and utterly persuade yourself that it's done. Just persuade yourself that it is done. It's done. And if I imagined what I would feel like when the bill had been paid, like I'm sat here now and that bill has been paid. And what I can honestly say is I'm not worried about it. There's a huge amount of relief that it's done. I'm just initially, like when the moment you do it, there was like relief. And then it was just like, yeah, it's just, I'm totally okay with it. I'm not worried about it at all, because why would I be worried about something that was done? And so before it was happening, it was like, if you imagine, what would you feel like if this was done? And literally close my eyes and absolutely imagine, what would that be like? What would you feel like if it was done? What would it feel like? And I know that feeling because, you know, in the past, we've all had moments and then it's been, whew, oh, yeah, it's done. Great. So relief was the first thing that I knew. And then it was just like peace, relief and peace. And I remember Beck and I actually having a conversation, and we were just like, well, shall we just consider it done? Be in relief and peace, consider it done. And that's what we did. And I was like, yeah, just get into total peace. And then it is, you can see what happens, what you create, what comes next from that place. That brought me back to a space of excitement, a space of, this is fun, let's do it, a space of, yeah, just a really nice space. Exactly what you're talking about, Lizzie. You know, how do you get into the space of creating, not from a space of lack and fear, but just from that space? And you know, where we are in the build now, it's like, I don't, at the moment, everything, it's all cool, it's all good, it's all going well. I am pretty certain there are going to be some things where it's going to be, oh yeah, you know, you're going to have to pay this huge amount of money, or whatever it is, something is going to come up. And it's like, right, okay, just play with being in a space of, this is done. And that I do that a lot in my imagination. Like in my head, I've got a house. You know, I just know that I have a house. It's beautiful. My house is really, really beautiful. And sometimes I have to kind of remind myself that that's not what it maybe looks like to other people yet. But to me, it's already there. It's done. Consider it done. So then the worrying about how it's going to be done, you don't worry about how something is going to be done. That's already done. And I can imagine pretty much anything. I can imagine what it will be like when it's done.
And so then, can I ask then, so when you then feel that excitement, is it then that you fall into creativity mode, so you come up with better ideas about how that money's going to come, or it just, are you willing to tell us how it did come? Is that relevant, or is that just...
I'm very, very willing to tell you how it did come. And in actual fact, in that particular instance, nothing really came but a really, really lovely feeling of relief. That was it. And it was like, yeah, still don't know how I'm going to do it. Still don't know how that's going to happen. And then completely out of the blue,
surprise.
Yeah. Totally and utterly. I hadn't had a conversation, hadn't asked, hadn't even considered it as an option, hadn't thought about that, just completely out of the blue. My brother, Beck's dad, actually had a conversation with Beck and said, oh, does Deb need some help with the build or anything that's going on there? And Beck was like, yeah, she might. And he was like, well, tell me what kind of help she needs then and we'll sort it. And I was actually like, oh. Didn't see that coming. Was not expecting that. Yeah, and it was like, oh, wow. That was really... So, and I guess a part of it is as well being open to it happening. And that to me is also, yeah, being open to it happening the way that it happens, not having to... One of the things that I really see, the way that I use my imagination, the way that I play in this way, is I don't get into the how. I don't imagine how it will happen. I just know that it is done. I go to what I would say is an end point of something, just find something that for me is an end point and that feeling of it being done. And it's like, yeah, I don't know, because I could get into, well, you know, it should happen this way, or this, you know, I don't know, whatever, should have come through the business, should have come this way, should have come that way. And it's like, well, I'm just open to it coming how it comes. And I don't know how it's going to be. So yeah, it ending up coming like that was not how I was expecting it. I don't know how I was expecting it to be. It was literally just getting into the feeling of, yeah, it's done. It's a done deal. And each time something happens, for me, that gives me the faith, if you like, to trust it even more, to kind of see, actually, yeah, if we have a desire, to me, desires are rather like acorns. If we have something that we desire, it is the divine. It feels to me like a divine calling to create whatever that is, and to surrender to that being created through us. And if that is the case, our biggest job is to get out of the way. And I can see the more fearful we are, the more we get in the way. And the more we get into the idea of, yeah, oh, this is down to me, I have got to do it. And it's not about not ever taking any action, but more and more and more, it is one of the things that I see in our business. As I said, we love playing offices. Beck and I love playing offices. It's great fun. I feel like a kid who, you know, got a really nice computer and I play at offices. But what I see, even with the things, you know, with the income that we have from our business, the income that we have from anywhere, it's like this idea that we did it, it's kind of crazy. Like, even if I look at the people on this screen today, you know, the people, you guys that are here, it's like so many things had to happen for you people to be on this webinar tonight. And so many of those things that had to happen for you to be on this webinar tonight were way beyond me. Way, way, way beyond me. you know, there's some relatives of mine on this, well, sort of, yeah, relatives of mine on this call tonight. And it's like, you know, people had to meet, and people had to get together, and people had to have relationships, and people had to speak to each other, and all sorts of things had to happen for you people to be on this webinar tonight. Now, how on earth could I have done all of that? It's just not possible. So to me, when we have desires, there has already been years of stuff put into play, ready to bring that particular aspect of that into play. If we are willing to let go of our fear and step into being used, if you like, you know, surrendering to what wants to come through us and being used in that way. Just before I got on this webinar, it just popped into my head, that Shakespeare quote, something about there is more in heaven and earth than we can ever know. And it's like, that is just so true. There is just way more that in human form, you know, the deeper truth of who we are is we know all of that. We know all of it. It is us. And yet in human form, we just can't. It's not, we haven't got the capacity to know it all. But there is so much there. And so what we are called to, for whatever reason, if we have desires, if we have things, if we are called in those ways, it's almost like, right, okay, play the game, surrender to that, allow it to come through you. It's definitely the best fun that you can have when you do that. And at times it is scary. At times you go, oh. So has that answered your questions, Lizzie? And is there any more?
Yeah, well, it has answered it a lot. Yeah, I think one of the things that you said made me think of another question that I've kind of asked as I've received the emails, which is you were talked about playing in your imagination, and I really get, you know, a strong feel for that. Lots of the messages are about that, and sometimes I still think, even though I've read that so many times, that I don't really know what it means, or that I don't know. I feel like it comes very naturally to you now. I don't know whether it always has. And I every time I read it, I think, oh yeah, that. But I don't think I do it. So that's interesting. It was interesting hearing you talking a bit more about what that looks like, and just getting into that feeling, because I think that's, yeah, I think it just feels unfamiliar territory. So that's, yeah, it re-inspired me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It definitely wasn't something, okay, I used to play in my imagination a lot and imagine not nice things. That was definitely how I used my imagination a lot. Like, what if? I used to frighten myself with my imagination. And definitely one of the things since looking in this direction is, what if you can imagine? One of the things that I see is, like Sydney Banks talked about, the good feeling and following a good feeling. And I see when I can imagine in a very specific way and I feel good. I know when I look in this direction, I know for me, like we did a webinar last night, and then I'm on this webinar tonight. And I know for me, these webinars are very energizing. I will come off this webinar feeling great. Just talking about this and playing in this and sharing really energizes me. And the same thing happens like with clients and everything. You know, when I have these conversations, however I have this conversation, looking in the direction of looking in the direction of the desire and the fulfillment of that desire really lights me up. And the less that I get involved in the how, it literally looks like, okay, if there's a step to take, it's really obvious to do. If there's something to do, just do it. And so, yeah, absolutely playing. There is, in the prospectus that Becca and I created, there was one I actually put, we decided to put in a sample email. And it's the email about, for those of you that are on the 365, it's the email about Daniel in the lion's den, because this again to me is, it's the same thing. It's an invitation to look to the solution, look to what it is you do want, because to me then it's the same. Like, if I imagine what would it be like if this had already happened, where would I be then? How would I be thinking? What would be happening for me? That really helps me to get into a good frame of mind, and then whatever occurs from there. And sometimes it is, as I say, it's not a one size, it's not a one thing. Definitely, there are definitely times when, from a good space, you know, a good space in my head, ideas occur. The 365 was in a great headspace. Let's do this, let's share, let's do it, it'll be great fun. So this is the email. Do you have your attention on the problem or the solution? Imagine what your life would be like if you didn't get caught up in thinking about your problems. Feel the freedom and lightness in that. There's a story in the Bible of a man called Daniel who was thrown into a den of hungry lions because he disobeyed the king. But Daniel had total faith in God, so he escaped harm and lived to tell the tale. Now, what the story is representing is the fact that when you have a problem, it's all you can give your attention to. You become consumed by it. It eats you alive. If you think of your problem as a lion, it can be very hard to turn your attention away from a hungry lion when you're sharing his den. But we've been taught that our problems need to be faced head on. We must fight them. But Daniel put his faith in God and turned his attention to what he knew to be true, and the lions were unable to harm him. You have it within you to turn your attention away from your problems and on to the solution. And when you do that, your problems can no longer consume you. But it takes faith, it takes practice. Once you have a lived experience of watching your problems shrink when you stop giving them your attention, it gets easier. So today's playtime is to notice where you have your attention. Are you looking towards the lions or towards God, the solution? You will know by the feeling. Sum it all up in a sentence. What you fight against stays alive. What you turn your attention from withers and dies. And so, to me, like the stories, the metaphors in the Bible, that you know, it's not a religious thing for me. It's just what they're pointing to, what's behind it. It's like that story when, you know, it wasn't in my head. It's not about the people. It's not in the story. It is about states of mind. It's about what it is possible for us to do. We can put our attention on the solution rather than get consumed by the problem. And to me, things get stressful and bother me, and I get fearful when I get caught up in the details of the problem. And yet when I look towards the solution, when I imagine what it would be like if this thing had come about, if it had happened, if that was already real out in the world, when I imagine that feeling is such a lovely feeling. And it's like, yeah, when I look in that direction, I'm not consumed by the problem. I'm not even consumed by the how it happens. The how it happens, that allows the how to unfold. When we are in that space, it's the allowing of however it's going to come about, whatever is going to happen, allowing that. And even seeing in those moments when it really looks as if things aren't going our way, because very often if we just imagine, consider it done, there might be moments when it's like, oh yeah, it absolutely doesn't look like it's ever going to be done, and it's, it would be easy to get fearful. But again, it's like, yeah, stay in that faith, stay with your attention on this as a done deal, not don't get into worrying about it. I mean, all of us know that worrying is just pointless. You know, worrying, we don't find answers in worry. You know? It's not where nothing useful comes from worry. And even, you know, very often when solutions do come, if we have been worrying for quite a while, it's in that moment when we get so worried, we're so exhausted with it, that we just decide to do something else for a minute. That's when something pops in. That's when an idea comes. It's like, yeah, when our mind isn't, when we are focusing and worrying about something, that's never where solutions just don't live there. And yet imagining, playing in your imagination in whatever way makes sense to you. And one of the things that I can see with the 365, it's not a you have to do this and you have to imagine and it has to be this way. But as I said, one of the things that teaches us the most is our own experience. Our own experience of something gives us, you know, that really gives us, we can know something when it's our own experience. And so a part of the playtimes and a part of the invitations to play in that way are to create experiences. And even if it is an experience of, yeah, I'm not so hot on using my imagination in that way, fine. It really, you know, it's not a, so you're doing it wrong, and it's just literally like, yeah, okay, play in that way, that's fine. So Matt, do you want to speak, or do you want me to read your, feel free to unmute if you want to.
Hello.
Hello. Lovely to see you.
I will try. Likewise. I'm really struggling to talk without coughing at the moment, so I thought I'd. That's why I put the question in there. But I'll see how far I get. It's really interesting, and this is something that I talk about with my clients sometimes. But it's always easier. And I'm going to rephrase that. It seems easier to help others find their answer to this particular question. And something that I often find is that I can use it against myself. So, because obviously our thoughts, my understanding, how I look at it, is my thoughts create my feelings. And if I've got a clear mind, I have at peace feelings. If I've got a mind that's in thinking, I start to get the anxious feelings or the fearful feelings. So when then I'm in peace and I'm pondering a situation, so I'm pondering for the solution, which is, I would say 90% of the time, I'm looking for a solution rather than a problem. Sometimes I get caught into the problem. Most time I'm looking for the solution. So then my question to myself is, are the feelings I'm having real and true guidance, or am I actually in thinking about that? So therefore I feel stuck about which direction to go. Does that make sense?
I'm
So
guessing.
as stuff just, like, as life just goes along throughout the day, and I'm doing stuff, like and when I'm with clients, I never pre-plan anything. I just hand myself over to the universe. They use my gob and my body to communicate what needs to be said, and it's always wonderful. Then when I sit and look at, or I just sit with sort of my own life and the way things are going, and I'm at peace with it all, then sometimes there's sort of the lack of peace with certain things. And I'm like, am I convincing myself to be at peace because I'm trying to create something I believe is missing? Am I accepting something that I shouldn't be accepting? I get into that process of wanting to understand whether it's guidance, a message, or thinking. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. It does. And I guess it is the whole, again, it's this idea that we have that there is a right way and a wrong way, and then our head starts to create, okay, I can get it wrong. Is this right? Is this wrong? Is this right? Is this wrong? And if we can come to a space of, well, what if we just can't get it wrong? Like, I'm sure if you're with a client and the client's going, well, is this guidance or is this? One of the other things that I really see is when we get out of our heads in that way, we actually know.
Yeah.
It literally, yeah, exactly. You do. It is a case of
yeah, absolutely.
And I know with last night on the webinar there was a girl, and she was in exactly that situation. She's like, this is going on and this is going on, and which is my guidance and which is this, and is this happening or is this happening? And I just said to her, you know. And she went, yeah, I do. I was like, yeah, we do.
It's interesting because when I'm out of life's daily situation, so to speak, so obviously I go, and sometimes I'm away driving throughout Europe and I'm completely away from normal life situations, and the things that I contemplate or I try to work out sometimes, and I just go, stop trying to work it out to get on with life. None of them seem to be a problem. Like, everything seems so clear and it's all fine. And the uncomfortable feelings or the frustrations, all those feelings that are often present are gone. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. There is actually no problems. And then I come back, and then they come back in. So then I'm like, so then my question is, because this is my mind, and it's all great helping everybody else. And then I come back and they start to come back in fairly quickly. And so there is my question of, is that my my truth that there is actually no problem and my head's making it up when I come back? Or is it my, hello, are you ever going to listen to us? And that, my darling, I've been pondering for years and probably still will.
To me, problems are mind generated, and it is.
Oh, absolutely.
When we move, when we move to a different level of consciousness or whatever, we see there just isn't a problem. There just isn't. And so, basically the Daniel in the Lion's Den, it's pointing to, when you just look to what the solution is, and if there isn't something specific that is a solution, when we just look to divinity, when we just look to the beauty of nature, when we just look to the amazingness of the universe that we live in, we just it raises us to a place where we see, well, there really isn't a problem. So basically there are no problems, and then our mind creates them, and then it's this idea we think we have to create the solution to the problem. And so, and that in a sense is seeing, when we can see the starting point, that there just isn't a problem. So what would we like to do? Given that there isn't a problem, what do we want to do? Ponder that.
Yes, I think that's probably more to the point, actually. It's what do you want to do, as opposed to what is the right thing to do.
The right thing is
yes,
absolutely a red herring. It's absolutely, it's a total dog chasing its tail. There is a right thing, and if you find the right thing, it'll be all right. And if you don't find the right thing, it won't be all right. That, trust me, is a made up mind problem that will just have you chasing it forever. And it is literally like, given there is no problem, what would you like to do? That's an different.
It's so interesting, because I always say to people when I'm working with them, take everything out of the equation. Take any problem out of the equation. How am I going to do it? Money, all of that, everything. And what is it you want to do?
Yeah.
Where do you want to be?
Sounds like
and
that.
So
yeah.
so like, I guess really just need to stand in the mirror and say that.
Yeah.
And I guess when you're not really 100% certain what your answer is, you stay where you are. And
we do know. That's the whole point as well. We do.
Yes.
we know.
Yeah, so when you block it, which clearly I'm incredibly good at doing, as well, you know.
So
Thank you.
No, thank you. It's great to have you here. I'm aware of the time, and I just wanted there's one or two very, very quick things. So yes, Lizzie, I think that's a great idea for some homework. Given that there is no problem, what do you want to do? Play with that one. It's a great one to play. So Katie put in the message, I guess you'd say the same goes for worrying about people. We can imagine things going well for other people that we are worried about, and that makes me feel better. Does it mean the desired outcome will manifest? In my experience, yes, that is something I do a lot. I absolutely love imagining amazing things for other people. And I actually find it easier to imagine lovely things for other people and manifest that than I do myself. I find that much easier. When you hear somebody, it's a great game. And another great homework, this is a great game to play when you hear people saying that they want something, or they would like something. Then just imagine that you meet them again, or the next conversation you have with them, they're telling you that they've got it, whatever it is. Oh my gosh, that job I told you I wanted, I got it, it's mine, it's brilliant. And just doing that is so much fun to play with. And yes, I mean, I could give you loads of examples of where that actually comes to be when we play with that. So I would really invite you to play with that. So we're going to wrap up tonight. The time is running away with this, as it does. And so, yeah, we've been talking about and celebrating the 365. So tomorrow, when you get the replay link with this, we'll also put in a copy of this. I was going to go all the way through it, and I didn't. You know what I'm like, I've always got... Just before this webinar, I was sitting there, I was thinking, I don't know if I'm going to have anything to say tonight. I love the way you're laughing, Lizzie.
Yes, that is classic.
Yes, I haven't really got anything to say. But yeah, I mean, I just had an absolute blast with the 365. And as Beck said at the beginning of this webinar, right now it is still, if you're not a part of the 365 and you would like to join, we would absolutely love to have you on board. Those of you on this call that are, I'm sure you would all say that it's great, it's fun, it's really good, the emails are interesting, and it's a great way. We have regular calls like this. It's a great way to get involved, be on calls, question your thinking, play around with creating. So we would love you to join us, and the information will be in the email that goes out tomorrow. One of the things that we have been doing alongside the 365 at the moment is a soul contract workshop, which also that's been a blast. That's been really fun. It goes incredibly well with the 365. So we'll put some information about that. As I said, I'm building my YouTube channel, so do pop along there and have a look at some of the videos that I've been making there, and comment whatever on there, because that's incredibly helpful. Is there anything else that I've forgotten, Beck, that I should be saying before we end the webinar tonight?
Hundreds of no. No, that's perfect, Deb. I think we'll include a copy of the beautiful prospectus we've created, because we've enjoyed putting it together, and it is our intention behind it is actually for it to be useful in and of itself, as well as telling you a bit about the course. So we'll include that along with the replay tomorrow. But no, I think that's everything. It's been a lovely call. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for listening. And it's lovely, to see you guys. It's always lovely to see all your beautiful faces. We will continue to have these webinars just because we can and we like it. Great to see you all. Thank you. So
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye.